Are you a fan of adventure RPG games like Undertale? Or something casual farming games like Stardew Valley? If you like both, then Dave the Diver might just be your perfect match. This indie pixelated game has surged in popularity, scoring high on Steam and becoming an overnight sensation. But what's behind the hype? Is it merely overhyped, or is the game genuinely exceptional? Well then, let's dive into it. The story begins when Dave received a phone call from a friend who's going to start a restaurant, and essentially needs him to help out by diving and collecting different fish and various types of sea creature that can go on the menu. It's split into 7 different chapters, and what starts out relatively straightforward plays with themes of a mythical civilization under the sea and some particularly annoying eco-warriors who turn out to be a little hypocritical and a bunch of pirates. Oh, there are also some mini-stories featuring a load of dolphins, and of course a giant octopus in its simplest form. The game is split between 2 areas. On the one hand, you're out diving. This can be done during the day and also at night. Later in the game, you'll be running a sushi restaurant on, but we'll start with the diving aspect. Before you plunge beneath the surface, there are several different things you can do from your mobile phone, and I thought it was really nice the way that you add new apps. Things like a weapon store. Yes, there are weapons like shotgun and rifle, and somewhere in the late game, you could also get a grenade launcher. Yes, this fell a little overkill, but I think is kind of fair since the fish are just crazy big and strong. The next thing we have the Marinka app, which is essentially a Pokemon collecting card game, whereby when you find new creatures, they get added to your list. And they have different rarities. You've got Eco Watcher Awards, which, as the title suggests, reward you for doing research into different ecological things. Perhaps most important is the shop, which allows you to upgrade your dive suit. You can increase the capacity of your tank, the harpoon gun that you've got in other areas, so that you can gradually explore further beneath the waves. Now in Dave the Diver, every time you go under the sea, although there are specific sections, the layout will change slightly. You can bring up your harpoon gun and spearfish, and depending on which level your harpoon guns at this level can be easier or a little more difficult. When you hit an enemy with a weapon or a harpoon, they'll bleed out a little. You can actually watch for telltale signs as they become weaker. And you'll notice that on some fish, there is a small red indicator which will let you know if they're aggressive towards the player. Very often, the restaurant or another side quest will have you looking for specific items, but their specific whereabouts will be unknown to the player, as one of the intentional design elements is having you explore. Aside from your harpoon gun, you've actually got a melee weapon, and you'll find new gear within chests and containers dotted around the environment, and these can have a host of attributes, things like poisoning the fish or even sending them to sleep. And weapons range from boxing gloves to golf clubs. Now when you find a new weapon, it gradually unlocks its blueprint, but you don't just get to keep that weapon for the whole game. When you leave the sea, you'll actually lose it until you've unlocked a blueprint and found the ingredients to actually make it from there. You can equip that permanently. The same goes for the various bracelets and charms you can find. One will let you dash for a short period, while another will keep you alive for a few moments after your oxygen's running low on air. Oxygen's is used in an interesting way as well. It's essentially your health bar. If you take damage, your oxygen drops down. There's that ever-present knowledge that it's ticking down as you move around. You can also increase your swim speed at the cost of an increased oxygen consumption. And particularly in the earlier game, when you've got such a limited supply, you're constantly on the lookout for sources of oxygen. When you're underwater, there are small bottles that you can pick up, but it's usually finding an oxygen container and taking a few gasping breaths which will restore your system. But the total depth that you can dive is affected by the rank of your suit, whereby if you pass beneath a certain line, and it's not quite up to scratch, that pressure will start to crush in, and your oxygen will come tumbling down. What's nice is there are a few things under the waves to help you get back to the surface more quickly in a pinch, such as the rescue craft or the later radio, which allows you to instantly get back to the boat. Weirdly, there's an element of strategy here. You may pass an oxygen cylinder and need to remember that location, because it's likely that as you push further down, there will come a point when you need to rush back to get more, or you just want a backup plan in case you get attacked by a shark. There's also a weight limit for Dave. You can see that in the corner. And when you go over, that essentially becomes a little more sluggish. This is another thing to factor in when you're upgrading your suit, particularly if you're a fellow loot hoover like myself. Sometimes you have to really focus on what it is you're there for, because perhaps you're after a specific fish for a VIP guest, but that's very heavy. So you don't want to arrive at that location and find that it's going to tip you over the scales, and you've the ever-present knowledge that if you run out of air, you're going to fall unconscious, and you'll only be able to take one item from your backpack. This can be absolutely devastating if you manage to find a few rarer things, but it's a really good way of handling death, in air quotes, without it being too punishing. It essentially costs you time, so you've gathered up all of these ingredients. You've got everything you need, and you've used both your morning dive and your afternoon dive. The two which can be performed in daylight, and maybe even skip time to head to the evening. Once there, you'll head over to running a sushi restaurant. This is where the entirely different other side of the game takes place. Here, you can deck out your restaurant in a number of different ways. You can spend your money to improve the decor, which has an effect on people's experience of it. And then there are social media element to it. People who visit will rate you on one of the apps, take selfies, and generally respond to how they were treated when they arrived. I absolutely love the restaurant side of the game. You've got a menu screen where you can place the different sushi that you've researched, and you can also enhance these with various ingredients like soy sauce, and enhancing them then improves their characteristics. Things like the price that they sell for and the happiness they provide to your customer. There's a touch of strategy here as well. If you put everything out at the end of the shift, anything that's not been consumed will have to be thrown away. What you can do there is put one of each type that you want, and then have those auto restock. Now, aside from yourself, there are also other staff that you can hire. These can be either placed in the kitchen, or they can be out serving with you. And to get those, you have to put out job advertisements and then choose the ones you think will be most appropriate, and the ones that fit your budget. It captures a little bit of that theme hospital magic from back in the day. When you're happy that you've got your sushi laid out, and the restaurant looks the way you want, you open for business. Customers come in, you dash about trying to meet their orders as best you can with an indicator, gradually turning red if you're being a little too slow. And if you entirely miss what they want, they might get angry and throw in a few mini games during this time, like pouring a green tea, or later on a more tricky beer, and still furthermore mechanics. As you move through those 7 chapters, and it's very, very enjoyable, the progression as well. It feels like your sushi is constantly improving, and this is reflected on the results screen. After every shift here, you'll see how much money you made in comparison to your previous ones, and your success is rewarded through the ranking up of your restaurant. These ranks range from bronze, silver, gold, and even past platinum, which in turn allows you to unlock new sushi recipes, which makes you more money, that you then put into different areas, like improving your suit and diving deeper into the depths of the ocean. The icing on the cake are those story elements that give a coherence to the whole package and a continuity of narrative throughout its chapters. It's just really, really fun and ridiculously addictive, much more so than I'd anticipated. Dave the Diver is surprising because it has so many things you wouldn't expect. There are boss fights. There's a fish farm that you unlock, which adds a whole new element to it, and VIP guests and special events. I guess what I'm saying is, despite the basic loop being incredibly enjoyable, it never feels like the developer gets lazy and just relies on that for the over-entertainment. My only critique really, as far as gameplay goes, comes from when you're given a specific object to look for, and maybe not as much guidance as is needed. Still, it's minor, and you'll end up finding what you need. So it doesn't affect gameplay as much. How does it run and sound? Visually, Dave the Diver has a pixel art style, with some 3D effects thrown in. I think it looks great. It's got a lot of character. And the thing that I found most fond in Dave the Diver are the little detail, such as the animation for leveling up your dishes. This could occur every time you upgrade or found a new ingredient, and each animation is different. Not just the level up at the restaurant, but pretty much everything, like level up your gun at the weapon shop at your phone. The Diver is a massive game. You're looking at least 25-50 hours for most people, but because you're under no obligation to push forward with the story side, you can really take your time and have the days play out in a much more natural way. This could push your completion time to 25 to 50 hours. Its base price of $15, and its download size of 3.3 gigs. They also seem really reasonable for the price. And the experience that you get from the game. So Dave the Diver is going to make a splash in my backlog score of 90. Incredibly fun and enjoyable, and lots of good value content. And this is me from the future. Want to tell you guys that Dave the Diver offer frequent update, such as the recent one. That's our lobster event update. It offers submission, auto farming so it make farms a lot easier, new event boss, new special customer, and a lot of additional content. So this is update offer, a lot of new things and balance fixing stuff. But all of that implies that the developer still has a lot of content coming to the game. So all of yours should be really happy. Now back to the video. And that's about it. Let me know in the comments, is this one you've been interested in and you're going to be picking it up. And as always, just a big thanks for enjoying the channel, and please leave a like and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day.